I felt very strongly from the beginning, I don't want to make any regenerative claim until we have a third party certifying body certify us as such. And I felt that way because as I was learning about regenerative and the landscape, what you kind of experience is there's a little bit of murkiness here. And some of the murkiness is just folks making the claim without going through the process of certifying or having auditors come and inspect. Then there's a bit of murkiness where there's multiple agencies you can choose from that have a lot of mostly alignment, but little differences. And then you have kind of it's always interesting when new certs get codified and then you try to go back and tell the grower who's been doing it for generations, like why something should be a certain way. And so for all of this, I said, okay, for our position is let's hold off on making any regenerative claims until we get a certification, because I think that's fairest to the consumer is us saying we're certified by a greener world than as opposed to just we're saying we're regenerative. And so our journey to choose a greener world was, so in 2019, when we first started growing, when you look up regenerative at that time, the first thing that comes up is the ROA. And at that time, the pilot was closed and the cert wasn't open. And so we were like, okay, well, we want to go down the process of getting certified, but we're kind of in the in-between of once they finished their pilot, they had a period of kind of reviewing the data and talking it through. And so just this, it wasn't ready for brands to apply. So what we did was we hired two separate consultants to build our own regenerative standards internally. And the reason we did that is because early on in the first few years, we started every year adding additional farmers to our network, because we were very nervous about this heirloom corn we were growing and wanted to keep growing it at different parts of the U.S., test out different climates, but also have backup plans if one farm failed. Because we had that happen in our first year. One farm lost its entire crop, and that put us in a bind. Wow. And so we said, okay, if we're going to be internally if we want to have a regenerative standard, let's hire a consultant, let's make a regenerative standard, and we'll use that for now in 2020 as we're getting new farms until we're certified third party. And then a greener world, I can't remember who sent it to me originally. Someone sent it to me, but a greener world was a few years behind ROC, and they were starting their pilot program. So when I talked to my growers about, hey, we can wait for ROA or we can join this pilot program, they were very eager to join the pilot program because they wanted a voice in this new movement. Because as I alluded to earlier, like a lot of regenerative practices that are now being kind of set are just common sense things that organic growers have been doing for many years. And they were a little skeptical of some of the stuff that was being said, or exactly what does reduced tillage mean and what's the benefit of that. And that might mean something different in Northern California than it does in the Northeast. Right. And so they wanted to participate in the conversation, as did we. And there was really nowhere you could apply at that time. So we did it. So we were part of the pilot program for a greener world. I think, one nuance from them is that they don't require you to be organic, which I think makes sense from a standpoint of trying to get more acreage starting to do things like cover cropping, even if it's not organic, that can have a huge impact. So I thought the scalability of that was interesting. We were in the pilot program of Greener World, and that's who certified our corn as being regenerative.